You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 119.
Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life. Hello and welcome to the show. We're so happy you're here. Today, we are talking about the five senses from a scientific point of view and from a mindfulness point of view. And we're going to end with giving some practical, ideas for the classroom for how do I say this?
Integrate what we taught into your teaching?
Yeah.
Share what we've taught with your students?
Exactly.
Something like that?
Yes. So before we dive in, let's talk about today's sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Time Timer. Time Timer is this awesome visual timer that is such an amazing classroom management tool. It helps students to understand time, to be able to manage their time, and it's clinically proven to help kids self-regulate as well, which is really cool. What I love about this timer is that it's so visual. So it looks like a stopwatch with like a color wheel that you dragged the amount of time that you want to use. Then you'll see that color sort of disappearing as the time goes by. So it's really easy for students, young students, older students to be able to understand the time passing rather than just having like a stopwatch up on your board, which they might not fully understand the numbers that are going down. So this is really visual. They have physical time timers that you can have up in your classroom, smaller ones that you can put at students' desks, would be really great for centers, things like that. They also have a desktop timer, which I love, where you can set different timers. You can save them. So if you have specific timers you use as part of your daily routine, they're really easy to access. You can give them names in different colors. It is just a wonderful tool for the classroom. You should check it out. Go to timetimer.com/EduCalm. So that's timetimer.com/EduCalme. All right, let's get into this. I love talking about the five senses because it's so interesting. Like, I still remember my mind being blown when I was in university and learning how our eyes understand what we're seeing and how our skin understands what we're feeling.
I wish you guys were all here with us right now because Kaylee's eyes are like popping out of her head. She's so excited.
Super nerd alert. But then it's so cool because then it translates to like understanding how we perceive what we're experiencing and how that relates to mindfulness and the joy of living in the present moment and appreciating these things that you're experiencing with your five senses. So, you ready for the science of this?
I'm so excited. You know I'm always excited for that.
So, the cool thing about our five senses is that we have these different organs, these different specialized cells that have adapted, essentially learned how to take information in from the world outside of us, how to understand what's happening around us. So, for example, let's start with sight, the way that we see. So our eyeballs are these amazing tools that are able to capture light waves. So the light that we have around us is a wave. So it is this wave that's moving through the air, coming towards our eyeballs.
Okay, I wish they could see your hands right now. Like, you're so animated.
Okay, it's hard to explain things on a podcast because you can't see my hands and my gestures. So I'm using my hands as a tool to help me to really articulate what I'm talking about here.
Okay, you do you. Keep going.
Okay, so When there is zero light, if there is no light at all, everything appears dark, right? You can't see anything. Essentially, nothing exists. There's nothing for you to perceive. It's completely dark because there's no light. Once the light goes on, it bounces off of objects and redirects that light wave towards your eyeballs. So what happens is every different object is going to absorb different frequencies of light waves, and that's what gives things their color. So for example, let's imagine in your mind right now a juicy red tomato. Okay, so this red tomato is sitting on your counter. The sun is coming in.
Okay, my mouth is watering.
It's almost lunchtime. So your juicy red tomato is straight from the garden. Also smells delicious. Let's get all our senses involved. So it's sitting on your counter. The light is coming in from the window. So imagine this wave that contains all the colors of the rainbow in this wave. All of the colors of the rainbow in the wave hit the tomato. Now what happens is the tomato absorbs the red light wave, the red length of light wave, but it bounces back at your eyeballs all of the other colors in the light spectrum. So the really cool thing about color is I said that wrong. Let me back up. Okay, sorry. When the light hits the tomato, okay, it absorbs all of the other colors of the rainbow, but it only bounces back the red light wave at you. So when the red light wave comes to you, you're seeing red. So that kind of means, let's just blow your mind for a second. That means that the tomato itself is actually every single color except for red, because it's bouncing red off of it. So it doesn't actually have red in it. It's bouncing the red light wave off of it. So I just think that's crazy. Okay, so now what happens? So now that light wave is going to hit every part of your body, but not every part of your body has adapted to be able to understand that light wave. But your eyes have adapted to be able to understand that light wave. So what happens is that light wave hits your eyeball, and the cells in your eyeball now are going to take in that light wave information and now send that information to your brain. So it sends that information through your retina to actually the back of your brain, which is kind of interesting. Now, the next thing that happens is now your brain has to interpret, understand, make meaning of that light wave. Because all that information was just light hitting your entire body, but it also hit your eyeball. Now your brain has to decide, what does that mean? So in order to decide what that means, it has to take in information from the experiences you've had in your life. So if you've never seen a tomato before, you don't have any frame of reference for what that object is. Your brain has to make meaning of what that is based on whatever experiences you've had in your life. So what you see, what is in front of you isn't necessarily what you're seeing. It's not your eyes that see. It's your brain that sees. Your eyes accept the light wave and communicate that light, that information to your brain.
Brain explosion.
But your eyes don't see. So you are never seeing a true picture of anything. Your brain is constantly interpreting and deciding what the information that's hitting your eyes means. So when you're looking at optical illusions, for example, those are examples of ways that your brain makes meaning, fills in gaps, and actually invents a lot of the things that you're seeing. So for example, when we're seeing color, we don't just see color straight up as its color. We can only see color or understand color in reference to other colors. So our brain makes a ton of different judgments. So that's why Little side note, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm actually also a painter. My parents have a painting and renovation business. So I've been painting houses since I was like 13. Now, when you're painting a house, the color that you paint is going to look different in every room based on how much light is hitting that wall. And so it could look very dark in one part. It could look very light in another. And depending on what time of day, that color on the wall is actually going to look like it's changing colors throughout the day. So everything that we're seeing is not the true reality. It's our brain that is making meaning of all of our experiences. So the same is true with all of our senses. Our skin has developed the ability to feel touch. So our skin takes in just this very basic information and then sends that information through our nerves all the way to our brain. And then our brain has to interpret, what does that mean?
That just like made me think too, when you hear a sound, like far away sound, and in your head right away, you're like, oh, that's a lawnmower. But then sometimes you're so wrong when you see what it actually is making the sound.
Yes.
Because your brain was like, nope, it's a lawnmower. But really, it's not.
That's like there's auditory illusions too. If you like research auditory illusions,
like
the panda song. Is that what you're talking about?
No, that song. If I was green, I would die. If that was green. Wait, like,
or are they saying dabba dee dabba die?
Isn't that actually what they're?
Maybe.
We don't know. We'll never know.
Yeah, but like you hear what you think you hear. You see what you think you see. You feel what you think you feel, and it's always in reference to your past experiences. So that understanding that, I think, is huge in understanding how we interpret our experiences, how we interpret what we're seeing, what we're feeling. So when we're talking about, for example, like trauma, so when someone has had a traumatic experience that relates to, something, one of their senses, for example, then they are now going to perceive that thing differently than I would perceive it or you would perceive it. So each one of us, based on our past experiences, is going to perceive the things that we take in through our five senses differently. So every single person on the world is having a completely different experience, no matter. We can be sitting in the same room beside each other, looking at the exact same thing, but we are having a different experience because everything is filtered through our brain and the meaning our brain makes of our five senses. So now that we understand that, let's get into how our five senses relate to mindfulness and being mindful.
All right. So in our brains, we can be in the future, in the past, in 5 minutes, 5 minutes ago, doesn't matter. Our thoughts can think past, present, future, right? But our five senses can only experience the present moment. Boom.
So when we're practicing mindfulness, we are practicing recognizing when our brain has brought us to the future or brought us to the past or is in a different location, and bringing our attention and our awareness back to what's happening in the present moment right now. Now, the only thing that connects us to the present moment and the world around us and inside of us is our five senses. That's how we connect with the world. So when we're practicing mindfulness, we are always coming back to our senses. Coming back to how are we feeling? What are we seeing? What are we hearing? What are we tasting? And practicing sticking with experiencing and truly being with our senses and what they are feeling right now so that we can be in the present moment.
It's also like in the classroom or even just on your own, it's the easiest way to practice mindfulness without having any special tools or apps or anything or programs or whatever, right? Like you can just choose a sense and focus on it And that brings you to the present moment.
Exactly. So oftentimes mindful strategies talk about let's pay attention to our breathing. So when we're breathing and we're being mindful of that, how does it feel to breathe? What does it feel like on my nose when I'm breathing? What is that sensation there? So we're bringing our sense of touch in there. We're bringing our sense of smell in there. We're bringing the sense of feeling the sensations and the movement within our body as we're breathing and taking those deep breaths. And how does taking deep breaths feel in my body? Is it making me feel more relaxed? What are the sensations? Do I feel pain in my body somewhere? So we're bringing our attention and our awareness to the present moment. Now, our mind can be, like you said, in the future, in the past. It can be in a different location. Our imagination can bring us anywhere. And as we're imagining the future, the past, different situations, we create the emotions that go with what we're imagining, that go with what we're thinking about. So when we're thinking about something stressful, our body is creating stress hormones and we're feeling the sensations of stress in our body. So oftentimes when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling worried, when we're feeling anxious, it's because our mind is elsewhere, focusing on something that isn't in the present moment. Now, when we bring our awareness back to our five senses, it brings us to what is truly happening right now. And most of the time, what's happening right now is fine. I'm sitting, I'm breathing, I'm usually safe right here, right now. And so when we can bring our attention to the feeling of safety or calmness or feeling grounded in our body, then we can get our mind to communicate with the body or recognize that, oh, the body's okay. Okay, so then we start having thoughts about being okay, and therefore we're creating emotions of feeling safe and calm and relaxed. So the five senses are just a wonderful mindfulness tool. They are the mindfulness tool that we can use in so many ways. So let's get into some of the ways or some of the little activities, very simple activities we can do with our students to help them to connect to their five senses.
Okay, let's start with hearing.
All right.
Go.
I love just asking the students to listen carefully and asking them to try to pick out 3 different sounds that they hear. So, when you quiet down, you might be able to notice one sound first. There's always one sound that's the loudest. So to be able to actually pick out different sounds that you're hearing really requires focus, attention, and awareness. And it also often blows students' minds.
That they can hear 3 things at once.
Yeah, it's an aha moment for most people the first time they try this. Oh yeah, when I really focus, there's so much more here than what I noticed before.
With little ones, I would even encourage you to get them to close their eyes because that'll heighten their sense of hearing.
Yeah. And sometimes you can turn it into a little experiment if you want to kind of do this in a science class or something like that, is experimenting with when your eyes are open and you're listening for 3 different sounds. What is that experience like? Now, what happens when you close your eyes? Let's try closing our eyes and listening to 3 different sounds. Did you notice a difference? And having a discussion about this after is really fun. Students really usually have a lot to say, and it's a great jumping point for discussing how when we focus on one thing at a time, we actually notice a lot more about that thing than when we were distracted by other things. So next sense.
Let's go with touch.
Touch. Nice. I really like just feeling different textures. So asking students to just rub their hands together and then rub their hands together really fast until they feel hot. So we'll do that for a while. And then once their hands feel really hot, then we'll wave our hands in the air and feel the air against our hands. And maybe like you can brush your fingers through your hair and really pay attention to how that feels. So it's just getting them to experience different sensations and recognizing how that feels. And it's kind of like this moment of awe and wonder. When you really focus on one thing at a time, you notice more than you would notice before. So that's also kind of the language I use is see if you can notice something you've never noticed before. So it's kind of like our goal, like we're being detectives with our senses. Let's try to notice something that we didn't notice before.
You can also just, like, if your students have things at their desk, like a pencil, book, whatever, and just getting them to touch it and feel it in with a new, like, fresh eyes.
Yes. Yeah.
Fresh, not
fresh fingers.
But yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And these activities, it's not something that has to take a long time.
No,
this takes 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, a great way to come back to the present moment.
Okay, next one, sight.
Sight. I love asking students to look for a specific color in the room.
That's easy enough.
Yeah. So we'll be quiet and I'll say, okay, so I'm going to put on a timer for 1 minute. See how many objects you can find that are the color blue.
Oh my goodness. And then they find a bunch of stuff that they've never noticed in the classroom before.
Yeah. And then there's
I didn't know that was there.
Yeah. And then there's always a fun discussion afterwards. They'll be like, wait, has that poster always been there? Or has that book? Or wow, I didn't realize how much blue is in the room. And again, we had the discussion of you see what you're looking for. If you're looking for blue, you're going to see more blue. But if you weren't thinking of blue, you aren't going to see it. And then that can turn into a discussion of gratitude. If you're looking for things to be grateful for, you're going to see more things to be grateful for.
Also, that makes me think of like how important it is when we as teachers put something up in the classroom that we want our students to use, that we can't just put it up and think that they'll use it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we've all been guilty of that. Like, we're like, oh, we'll put this like, uplifting quote in the classroom, but then you never like point it out to the kids and they'll never notice it.
Yeah, exactly. There's just too many things, right? There's billions of pieces of information coming to your brain at every second. Your brain is constantly sorting out what it thinks is the most important and only focusing on the things it thinks is the most important and letting everything else kind of fall to the background and not be noticed at all. So as you're going through your day, there's way more that you aren't noticing than what you are noticing. So when you're intentional about what you want to notice, then that is huge. It really changes your experience.
Love it. Okay, smell. Go.
Smell. That one is a little bit harder. I like to do that one outside if I can, because there's just more fragrant smells, right? So, maybe we'll like sit in the grass and just like inhale the smell of the grass as long as there's no grass allergies. But in the classroom, it can be like, sometimes I'll just say like, smell your sweater, smell your hair.
Or your book.
Or your book.
Books always have fun smells.
They do. And if you're like in elementary school, there's a really good chance that your students have something that is scented in their desk.
Yeah. Or like, like those scented markers.
Yeah.
Like you probably have some of those lying around.
I don't know if you're supposed to be inhaling scented markers though.
Like those like raspberry, like, Mr. Sketch or whatever.
Yeah.
You're not, okay. Just start writing with it and see if they can smell it.
Yeah, there we go. But I like to also pair smell with taste. So once we get into the taste activity, we'll talk about that. Okay. So with the taste activity, I really like to do this. Either I'll bring in little mini oranges or like chocolates, or we'll just use snacks from their lunch.
Yeah, I know what you're about to say, and I've done that activity during snack time.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
And all you do is that you say, okay, we're going to eat this mindfully. So our goal is to actually use all of our senses as we're eating this food and to see if there's something we notice that we never noticed before. So we'll unwrap it very slowly and we'll smell it as we go. So really using our sense of smell with our sense of taste, because they go together so well, is a great way to incorporate that. We'll smell the orange or the chocolate with our eyes open and with our eyes closed. So it's really kind of like being a detective with your senses. Then we'll slowly eat the item, and I actually bring like science into this. We get into some biology and digestion. So I'll talk about, okay, before you're even putting the food in your mouth, do you notice?
It's like the tomato.
Yeah.
You were just talking about. Full circle. Okay.
So before you even put the orange in your mouth, what's happening in your mouth? And most of the kids will say, well, my mouth is already salivating. Well, saliva is the first step in digestion. So your saliva starts to break down sugars before you even swallow. That's step number one. So when you're starting to salivate, when you're seeing food, it means your body's starting to digest the food before you even put it in your mouth. How cool is that?
So crazy. So crazy.
Yeah. So we'll, kind of talk about that. We'll talk about as you're seeing it, like, a lot of students will say like, oh, they're starting to feel hungry. They can feel their stomach moving. Yeah, your body is preparing for digestion
right now. While we're just talking about this, I'm ready for lunch.
Yeah. And then we'll start eating it and really trying to taste all the flavors, notice what's happening in our mouth, notice the sensation on our tongue and our teeth, and notice how it feels when we swallow it. And after we've swallowed the first piece, notice how we feel about the second piece, noticing that urge to grab another piece. Oh, that was so good. I want another one. And just paying attention to that. So this mindful eating piece allows students to, and we usually have a discussion afterwards of what did you notice? And what always comes up is like, that was so delicious. Nothing has ever tasted so good, because when you're really focusing on it, you're experiencing at a deeper level. You're really present with it and you're paying attention to that senses.
How often do we eat like on the go and we just gobble it down? We don't even think about what it tastes like.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
You're just, I've got 15 minutes for lunch. I gotta eat this. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or like not watching TV while you're eating because you're totally distracted.
Yeah.
And it's a cool thing too when you're eating slowly like that, is because you can then feel your body preparing for digestion. Like you notice how when you're present with it, you're salivating, your stomach is like, you can feel your stomach getting into action. It's really interesting to have that experience and then contrast that with what happens when you're eating mindlessly rather than mindfully. What's the difference in experience, and how does your digestion change, right? Like, when you're eating something, you're just shoveling your food in at lunch and you're not really taking time to pay attention to it. You're thinking of other things or you're working on something at the same time. Your body just isn't going to digest your food as well as it does when you're doing it mindfully and paying attention to that and putting all your energy there.
Or like you eat and you don't realize you just eat, and then you're just like stuffed, painfully stuffed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you weren't paying attention.
Yep. Exactly.
And I do that all the time.
Oh yeah. Everyone does.
So
it's natural.
This episode right now is a good reminder again for me to just slow down and enjoy when I'm eating.
Yep. So there are 5 different activities you can do with your students as kind of a moment of mindfulness during your day. You can do it outside, you can do it inside. It can be as elaborate or as simple as you want it to be. And we actually have a free resource to share with you to help you do these 5 senses of mindfulness in the classroom.
This is a free resource that is in EduCalm Classroom, which is our complete, ready-to-use social emotional learning program for the classroom. So this is a bonus activity in there. It is called a 5 Senses Scavenger Hunt. So basically, you are looking for things with all of your senses. I won't get too into it because there is in the free resource, there is the lesson plan included with lots of options of activities and everything. It's all ready for you. You just got to make a couple copies and you're good to go. So if you want to grab that, you can go to educalm.com/TBE119. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Thought I was getting my numbers mixed up there. So again, that's educalm.com. That's educom.com/TBE119 and TBE as in the Balanced Educator.
Yeah. So yeah, grab that free resource. And if you like it, you might want to sign up for Educom Classroom. We have an entire unit called Mindfulness and the Five Senses, where we walk students through using their five senses in 5 different audios. The Five Senses unit is always a favorite. Teachers love doing this one, and it connects really well with the science curriculum as well.
Most teachers use it as a cross-curricular activity, this one.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that.
So you can go to educom.com to check that out if you want to learn more about our Educom Classroom Social Emotional Learning and Mindfulness program. All right. Jinx. You owe me a Coke.
Oh my goodness. Like my childhood all over again.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. We appreciate you and all the wonderful work you're doing in the world. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone that you think would get value from it too.
Thank you. Have a good week.